Next on the agenda, we have Taking Positive Steps of Service Award.
Yeah, so the district nominated 3 area businesses for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Business Honor Roll. All 3 businesses were supposed to be here tonight. I see one of them here tonight, so it's okay. To be recognized, we will talk about all 3, but we will start with one that's here. We nominated them, and they were all included on the WA, the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Business Honor Roll. So we'll start with Piggly Wiggly. Right, so our local Piggly Wiggly grocery store has offered support to our school district and students in many ways. During our fundraising campaign for a new turf athletic field, Piggly Wiggly promoted a rounding up program that resulted in significant contribution to the project. Piggly Wiggly also supports other local organizations, such as the Optimist Club, with food and supply donations for fundraisers. These clubs then donate funds to the student organizations at our club. So it kind of just trickles down. So we are very thrilled, first of all, just our continued relationship with Piggly Wiggly and how much they support us, and having the opportunity just to honor them as well. So we also have a Taking Positive Steps for Service Award. So this goes to you. And you know, we try to pay the people who win, so you get $100 grand.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you on
So-
behalf of everybody at Main Street Market.
Banner.
No.
Okay.
So the other 2 businesses that were recognized, and we will make sure they get the information. As I said, they're both scheduled to be here tonight, but as we know, there's a lot of illness kind of going around, so that may have stopped them. Lodi Sausage. Lodi Sausage Company offers support to our school district and community in many ways. For example, Lodi Sausage provides the Broad Stand fundraiser for our golf team every year. In addition, they provide meat for the annual school district staff homecoming picnic. Lodi Sausage also supports many community organizations, in turn provide donations to our student organizations. So again, thanks to Lodi Sausage for all their work, and we appreciate them. So thanks, Lodi Sausage. And finally, the Associated Bank here in Lodi has, since I've been here, sponsored a staff luncheon at a restaurant on Lake Wisconsin every year on the first day for our new staff. So there's no better way for us to welcome our new staff and make them feel welcome by taking them out to dinner by the lake. And Associated Bank pays for that every year. And we have a nice conversation. It's just a nice way to welcome people in. It just starts the school year off right every single year. So thanks to the Associated Bank for continuing to sponsor that each and every year. So thank you. And we'll make sure we get that information to them.
Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation by LCAD on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Yeah, we are going to have to table that because, as we were just talking about, people are ill. The group that was going to present tonight, they're ill. So they're unable to make a night, so we will have to postpone that till January. So sorry for the inconvenience.
Computer updating, hang on.
Yeah, it's slow tonight.
Yeah,
It's very slow.
very slow. I kicked me out, now I'm only back in.
Next we have public input, and I need to read the whole thing, and it's not coming up on my computer.
Not coming up on my,
Okay.
anybody?
It says it's canceled and moved to next month anyways on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Public input?
Yes.
Here it comes. Okay, purpose of the public input
does say
agenda
that.
item is
Oh,
for the
it's back now.
citizens
Oh,
and
it's back.
staff in the school district of Lodi to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. The portion of the meeting during which the comment of the public is invited shall be limited to 10 people unless extended by a vote of the board prior to the beginning of the public input portion of the meeting. The amount of time allotted for each speaker will generally not exceed 3 minutes. If a speaker has questions for the board, they'll be duly noted, and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of a public input agenda item. As an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. If you are providing comments, we would merely ask that you please come to the microphone, come to the table, and state your name and municipality of residence. Suzanne Miller is the only one here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah. I'm here because this is, I'm probably not going to be subbing anymore, which may make some of you very happy, but it's really because I do not feel heard. And this is a project, curriculum development, that a degree I got 20 years ago and tried to bring to this community, and have found a great deal of difficulty exchanging ideas and having conversations. Stop having hard conversations with people who don't want to change. Stop showing up for people who have no interest in your presence. I know your instinct is to do everything you can to earn the appreciation of those around you. If you are excluded, insulted, forgotten, or ignored by the people you give your time to, you do not do yourself a favor by continuing to offer your energy or your life. I got my teaching degree as a mature adult. I brought my kids to Lodi. They went to Lodi High School, 2 of my 3. Neither one liked it here. I also read in the paper today, because I wasn't sure how I was going to proceed. If Lodi School District parents need any proof that the mental health struggles of their children are on the rise, they need only to look to the Psychotherapy Center of Wanakee, which has gone from around 15% of its caseloads to 50% nearly today. What's that got to do with anything? This is health. This is wellness. And wellness is what physical education was to become, not simply a home for athletics where we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, and then we underpay our people. We get rid of our janitors who know our kids, take them home. We outsource, and then we build $million-dollar stadiums to keep up with school districts twice or 3 times our size. We tend to hire coaches more than teachers. And things like throwing a fastball does not work when you don't have everyone who throws fastballs. That would be your Phi-Ed classes. I absolutely think you need to get your boys and your girls separated in middle school. They are not ready to be together. It's like Lord of the Flies. That was my children's experience in high school. So, whether or not your kids feel safe and heard is far and away the most important piece of a process. I can finish reading it. We have less than 3 minutes. Wellness, healthy mind, body, spirit, bullying, drugs, sexual assault. I could go on. Bullying, because with an athletic-based curriculum, it is about winning. And we like to win. Is it at all cost? Thank you for your time. Thank you for serving. It is time to circulate nomination papers, and that discussion is also happening. I would like to see my personnel file sometime, as I'm going to step away, and would welcome the opportunity to meet with any one of the board members to further discuss things that we can't fit into 3 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have the consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group unless a board member requests the specific item to be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. We have approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
We,
Great.
I'm gonna go
Sorry,
through
I'm
the whole
sorry.
thing. Yeah. Next, we have the, I'm just gonna try to read these, the voucher. I can't read them because I don't have the individual parts. Minutes was only from last month. Payroll checks, so we have vouchers, payroll checks, account payable checks, credit card receipts. Came in, I saw it and left. Under fundraiser requests, we have one for Stride with Pride through LCAT. There are no fundraiser reports. There's one field trip request to the FFA halftime conference. Sorry, I'm going slow on this because the computers are not updating. There's nothing under committee or recommendation for approval under other. We have the fall sports summary and the summer school update, and then the GROW consortium courses under resignation and retirement. We have no retirements, but we have resignation of girls volunteer soccer coach, and then 2 middle school forensic coaches. Co-curricular. We have a volunteer middle school wrestling coach. We have a baseball head coach and 3 assistant coaches. Under girls soccer, we have a head coach and an assistant coach and a volunteer. Under golf, we have a head coach, 2 assistant coaches, and a volunteer. Community program crew, there's nothing. Regular staff. Did it come up? Did it change? Is that? No, I'm still on the other one. There we go. It's crew. 5th grade long-term substitute teacher, long-term permanent substitute, 2 of them for 2nd semester. Increase in primary school special education assistant and adjustment of hours for primary school special education assistant add-on. Personnel other. The software we're using is Board Docs, and many, many other boards use it on Monday nights, and something's clearly going wrong with it.
I have that one.
Yeah, I got it, finally, thank you. So there's a request for leave without pay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And since it's right here, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by myself and a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. First on the list, we're in communication, we rearrange things. Lodi Elementary School, OSC.
Yeah, so in the board report, you saw just, first of all, some staff highlights. So you have the opportunity to get to know staff that are in our building, whether they're new or been there a long time. And then also just a little bit about the response to school report card and how we used state data and district assessments to help us either confirm or challenge what we're already seeing daily in our assessments. And then I shared in there just our example of our response to that daily assessments, and then also which was confirmed with our district and state assessments, and the response that OSC took to make adjustments in the way that they were delivering math and literacy. And then also just some other happenings around the building. It's an exciting time of year, and some ways that we've gotten people involved in the community, but also just as a building community.
I love your Macy's Day Parade.
The
Yeah,
balloons.
this is a good time.
Yeah.
Things we do, right?
Yeah. Well, they learned about big balloons.
It did. It's a great book if you haven't read it.
Next, we have the Lodi Middle School.
All right, good evening, board. First thing is just celebrating our students. We had our October Students of the Month, which were nominated for their effort. So we appreciate all their efforts and everything they do in striving to succeed every single day. Just want to recognize also our sixth grade staff for bringing in veterans. They actually bring in veterans throughout our community. They give presentations to our sixth graders, and they have a rotation that all the sixth graders go through, which is just a super cool opportunity for all of them. They bring slideshows. Some of them brought like equipment. We had a fighter pilot bring his helmet and uniform and things, so it's a super awesome presentation for them. We also tried to honor our own veterans, Mr. Giesel, Mr. Landolt, and Mr. Clay during that day, and thank them for their service for our country. Some other highlights. The entire school, we went over to watch The Wizard of Oz at the high school, so thank you to the high school for putting that on, and our kids were super excited about that, and it was a super cool opportunity, because as I asked the kids, like a lot of them have never seen a musical before, so we're really happy to be able to provide that opportunity, and I'm thankful for the staff to be willing to go over there, because I want you to know, like, when they're over there, I know they'd love to be watching the musical, but they got like 20 kids that they're eyeing up, and when the bubbles came down from the ceiling, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? They were all pretty good about that. And then I also want to recognize we had an assembly, our first assembly in a long time, a full school assembly in November, just before Thanksgiving break. I want to thank Jessica Holman, Michelle Howe, Hunter Alds, and Connie Huseman, and Lila Shep for organizing that. I want to thank Ashley Gulbertson for having the band ready. They had a drum line as everybody entered, and we had lots of games and festivities, and fun was had by all, and lots of school spirit. It was just really good to have everybody get back together and have some fun again. So that's all from Lodi Middle School for now.
Thank you. High school.
Thanks, Adam. First of all, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Thailand exchange. So 9 students and 3 teachers returned on December 2nd after being there for about 3 weeks. Lots of great experiences for them. I did want to personally thank JP Fossbender, Kelsey Barlow, and Hallie Ziegler, who are 3 chaperones who have a ton of responsibilities, making sure our kids are safe and feeling good about their experience while they're there. And then Jason Marshall, Pam Cunningham, Lynn Woodritz, and Kathy Trinan. So I was able to go over for a week and give a few speeches in Thai, and which was interesting and challenging. But got to sign the memorandum of understanding, which was a really incredible experience. So I appreciate them kind of holding the fort while I was gone. The one thing that I wanted to point out was there was a gift from Tripong Kempet, who is the director of Sangwon Ying School. And there's a picture of our staff members holding this coin. So this is a picture of the high school staff holding commemorative coins that were sent back with me that highlight former Thai king Narasuan, who was famous for his military victory over the Burmese troops in the late 1500s. And I have coins for all the board members as well, so they're supposed to be good luck, so I'll give you those at the end of the meeting. So I appreciate him sending those.
Maybe you should give them at the beginning of the meeting, they're good luck.
Well, I don't want to take too much time, so I will hand those out when we're finished tonight. Derek brought up the Wizard of Oz. If you had an opportunity to go watch The Wizard of Oz, it was an amazing performance. It is about the kids on the stage, and that's the most important thing, and the kids in the pit that are playing instruments. There were 85 kids involved, 37 parent and community members, which was outstanding. A huge thank you to Electronic Theater Controls, or ETC. They donated close to $200,000 of equipment for the musical. And compared to other years, they did really well. The numbers are back up to pre-COVID numbers as far as the people attending. You can see the numbers there. And just the fundraiser that they do, where everybody brings in treats and things like that, they did really well for the music department. So I wanted to bring that up. NHS induction ceremony took place, so you can see the students that were inducted. I also put a little blurb about the selection process, so if you're curious about what that looks like, it's based on 4 categories that they consider when they're having a discussion about the students that will be in NHS. And I wanted to thank Amy Jelnick and my admin assistant Pam Cunningham for doing a lot of work to get that ready. Capital Conference Honors Band was just held at Lodi High School just recently. 95 students from all of our conference schools were there. You can see the list of students that were from Lodi High School. And I did have a Capital Conference principals meeting, and a couple of the principals were there because they had kids that were there, and they said great things about the experience and said great things about our high school, which was nice to hear. You can see our Students of the Month for the month of October. Also there, an FFA report, which I'll let you read through. our latest advocate videos, which are always entertaining. And then finally, we do the 12 days of holiday cheer. This is something that Vince and Dawn Schwartz started a few years ago. So we're continuing to do that, and we just had, what was it today? Count the Kisses. And there were a few staff members that won those, which was nice. So I really appreciate them putting that all together. And that's at the high school.
Thank you.
You'll get your coins in a little bit.
Curriculum.
The theme of my board report this month is thank you. Thank you to Jen Morgan. She starts the access testing window right now, and it runs until the end of January. And that is a state mandated assessment, also federally mandated, so that we have to do once a year for our English language learners to determine their English language proficiency and services. So she has over 40 students in the district that she will be within this very tight window attempting to do that assessment with. It's a 4-part assessment. So she's starting at the primary school right now and working her way up. So a big thank you to Jen Morgan, as she's very busy all the time, but especially so at this point of the school year. Annual WISE staff data collection. That's not really going to mean anything to most people unless you live in the district office and you know Chris Lehman. This is something that she has a particular expertise in, and she connects with various administrators throughout the school year to ensure that this report is completed and done accurately and submitted to the state. It deals with a lot of licensing things and gives us a heads up as we work with educators to renew their licenses or make sure that licenses fit certain courses, things like that. But it is a heavy report. Like I said, requires a certain level of expertise and experience, and is a little stressful for her at this time of the year as she's completing that, but we thank her for that work that she does behind the scenes. Another big thank you to Chris Carls in the district office, who is working on the annual WISE Data Student Snapshot and just finished that. Some new learning for her as she's in that role, but this is, again, a very important report that has to be submitted for the state into the Department of Public Instruction and finds its way into all sorts of things that transfers to state reports that we pull. And Chris Carls has been doing a ton of work to make sure that that has been submitted. So a big thank you to Chris Carls. Big thank you to Christy Paskey, our district K-12 math lead. She has been coordinating with our full 4K-12 math department and doing a wonderful job. And through those conversations, primary school math reps have identified that although we have a fairly strong elementary math program in place, one area that we could improve and get better on specific to that program is math fact practice. And so they're very good at that at the high school. There's some procedures that they've put in place to support that. And she has been with her high school helpers coming down. You can see some photos there, helping out and identifying and trying out some potential future routines that we can put in place at the primary school. So huge thank you to her doing that on her prep time. Okay. And lastly, a big thank you to our community connection business partnerships that we continue to create, and there's some photos in there highlighting those.
Okay, thank you. Help Cat. It's not, no, you'll do it later, that's fine.
No, I don't have anything.
Their
report was gonna be the presentation.
It was gonna be a presentation and they're not here.
Student services.
Oh, yes. Students in special education are entitled to receive specially designed instruction based on their disability-related need. We have found a couple of gaps in resources here in the school district, specifically for some of our older students, so students at the middle school and high school level. We have brought in, or are bringing in, 3 of the pieces that I shared here within the board report. SRA Math is obviously a math curriculum. Sunday System is a reading curriculum, and SMARTS is a curriculum to focus on executive functioning skills. So there are just more information on those 3 pieces there. We have had 2 developmental screeners so far this year for our youngest learners here within the school district. They were on September 9th and November 11th, and 5 children and their caregivers attended them. We'll have 2 more developmental screeners this year, January 4th and March 3rd. And lastly, we had another Crisis Prevention Institute training on our collaboration day of December 2nd. And again, that is focused on preventing and de-escalating situations. And we were able to train 10 participants. They earned their recertification, and 4 participants received their initial certification.
Okay, thank you. Primary school.
So as Erica talked about, the elementary and primary school is very busy. These are the last 2 months here. So November, we had our parent-teacher conferences. It's just a great chance for the parents to sit down with the teachers and find out what things they're doing really well, the glows, and then just areas that we're going to support them. We call them the grows. Connected to that, we had our Scholastic Book Fair, and the funds, the different things that we earn from that go towards purchasing birthday books. So every child gets a free book for their birthday, and it is one of the highlights of their birthdays when they come down and can choose high interest books. We also did, during that same time, the 10th annual Stuff the Turkey Drive. And so you can see a picture on the left-hand side there of just different items that Reach Out Lodi has asked us to see if we can try to fill, and we had a large number of people donate for that. We enjoyed our first day of snow, and then actually the snow on Friday was, I don't have the pictures of it here, I was subbing for recess duty, and the kids had a blast with all the sleds. We had just purchased about 15 sleds. Perfect timing because they all got to enjoy that on Friday. This Friday we do have our winter concert, so looking forward to that, and just want to share that Lexine Weber does an amazing job on that, and that is such a great opportunity for kids to get in front of huge groups of people. It takes a ton of courage, and she works with them, not just on the music performance, but just even being in front of stage and doing all that. And then probably the other big highlight is just for Pillar 1, Preparing for the Future. Earlier this year, the teachers took the iReady assessment to just get a real feel for what are those questions and what they're doing. And so on that Friday collaboration day, while I was getting training with Adria, the teachers worked on creating a lesson plan to work through with their students on some of the different things you take before taking the test. You know, just how do you answer some of the, like the format of the questions, like multiple choice, like you have to actually click on all the answers, or there's some of the slides, like there's 2 pages to it, like here's the arrow to get to the second slide, or you have to listen when they say the little voice thing, like you actually have to click on that. So just some of those things to set the students up for success. So the teachers were working on that. And then probably just the last one, we got a couple other of the things for nurturing the whole child. That was the Operation Kindness and different things that we have there. And then the last one, just the district workforce. Really focusing on team building with my staff, and it'll kind of lead into collective efficacy in the next couple months here, but we did a colored personality test, and so the teachers had a chance to see what are some of their strengths, and then talking about learning from each other, what are some benefits that they provide their students by those strengths that they have. So if you've never taken a colored personality test, give it a try.
There's no answer for the purple though, or the pink, or whatever it
They
is.
kind of blended the colors, and I think that's because, as the teachers found, you may be one area in particular, but then you actually have some blending of colors, which leads to some more colors than just blue, gold, orange, and green.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then, yes, would you like to give a report?
Yes, I would actually. So to start off, I just want to appreciate 2 of our seniors from the girls Lodi tennis team, Caroline Carls and Rachel Winters, who were named to the all-area tennis team. And Rachel Winters was also awarded Player of the Year, which is super incredible for her. Another thing that I just want to highlight on is that some of the high school wrestlers, after their practice last Tuesday, went to support the middle schoolers at the meet, which I thought was great, and I know it was a great opportunity for the middle schoolers and the high schoolers to kind of interact. My brother's in 8th grade, and he loved that the high schoolers went to go see him at his meet, so it was really nice to see that. One of our student-led leadership council held a couple of events. This week, for example, they're introducing the opportunity for students to send candygrams to their high schoolers through the 13th through the 15th of December. Leadership Council is totally run by students, and they have a teacher advisor, but everything that they do is like completely planned by them and executed by them. Last Friday, they also, after one of our basketball games, they held a volleyball tournament between the students. We haven't been able to do that for the past 2 years due to COVID, so it was great to see that starting up again. As well as last Friday, students and community members had the opportunity to go skate with the Norskis, our co-op hockey team. So.
Like, literally go on the ice with
Yeah.
the team? Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
People could bring a non-perishable item, and then you go on the ice and you skate with all the players after their game.
Wow. Very nice. District Administrator report.
Yeah, it was referenced a little bit, but holiday concert season is here. So I've had the opportunity to go to 4K concert, the middle school band and choir concert, and the elementary school and OSC winter concerts. And they've been outstanding. And we're looking forward to the primary school concert this Friday afternoon and the high school band and choir concert on Thursday? Thursday, right? Thursday the 20th. Thanks to our 4K team for their work with the 4Kers for their concert, and thanks to Lexine, Hunter, Ashley, Doug, and Kate for all their work in preparing to get our students ready to perform. It is quite a lift, and we really appreciate it. And I also want to thank our auditorium director, Mr. Jason Marshall, for his help and support in all the concerts. We also, obviously, with holiday concerts, the holidays are coming upon us, right? So the district office will be closed. Our district will be closed December 23rd through the end of the day on January 2nd. Obviously, there's different events that are going on, but for the most part, we are officially closed for those times, just so people are aware. As you'll see in my report area, there's a very nice thank you from Reach Out Lodi for the donation from the high school powder puff football game. And so we really appreciated that donation and always the support. And finally, we are starting to make that transition to Neola, so the board members have seen a significant amount of board policies, and they will talk about it at the end of this meeting, but that will continue on as we move forward.
There was a lot of reading to do for this meeting. A lot, yes.
Yep.
So, board president report, so talking about those holiday concerts, at the PAC, we have an online version of that, and it was great to sit while I was working and watch 3rd through 5th grade do their concerts. And then this Friday, anyone who wants to, who can't get away, can watch right on their computer or their TV right from home. It's really nice. So Friday, that starts at 12:20 p.m. I'd like to congratulate everyone on achieving the gains that we're seeing in the district report cards, especially in the light of COVID-19, and we'll have that coming up here. Teachers and support staff, they go above and beyond every day, and incredibly hard work that they do. Administrators for providing that underlying structure and that space for these gains to actually happen. And then the students that actually didn't perform the work, right? They clearly both enjoy and want to learn and have put in all that necessary hard work to make these changes happen. And then to all the parents for supporting all these students and our staff during the time. And then I'd like to, as I don't think Vince mentioned those safety assignments that he did, but we're going to talk about those too. I'd like to thank Vince for taking the time to do those and saving the district quite a bit of money on doing those. They're incredibly extensive and detailed and informative, and they clearly took a lot of work to go through that. So we'll be seeing those come back, I guess, from now. As you're working on those, we'll see those things. So. And then lastly, I'd like to say happy holidays, everyone, and hope they enjoy a well-deserved winter break. And I personally cannot wait till next year's schedule is in place, so we have the early August start and a true mid-semester break for everyone, so that our students and our staff can have that full break without having to worry about school when they come back. So next we have the regular agenda, and first on there is the school report cards.
Yeah, so DPI released our school report cards for the 21-22 school year shortly after our last board meeting. These report cards are posted on our websites with a video from Dr. Carls, helping to explain the report cards. Dr. Carls also met with the curriculum committee of the board and went through the report cards in great detail with them. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Carls to give a brief overview for the board and the community for our district report cards.
And I'm going to read a section that's actually on board docs, so if you've read that already, you could just zone out for a minute, but I want to make sure everybody hears this. It's out there in the public. So as a reminder, the Department of Public Instruction is required by state statute to generate school and district report cards for every publicly funded school and district in the state. The report cards are intended to help schools and districts use performance data to celebrate success and improve their efforts to prepare students for their futures. These report cards include data on multiple indicators for multiple years across 4 priority areas: achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track to graduation. Based on its score, a school or district receives 1 of 5 rating categories, from fails to meet expectations to significantly exceeds expectations. Once again, the school district of Lodi received a rating from the state of exceeds expectations, with a score that was just a tick up above where it was the previous year. Lodi High School, Lodi Middle School, and Lodi Elementary School also received ratings of exceeds expectations. OSC received a rating of meets expectations. Internally, our teams had the opportunity to analyze these reports to celebrate areas of success and be responsive to areas we self-identify for growth. And we've been able to see these reports and data before they were publicly released for months. So although this information tends to be new for the public, we've been looking at our information, both our internal assessments and then this information from the state, even this summer, having conversations about how do we start the school year being responsive. And then in addition, I know a few of you have reached out to me and we've had conversations or are going to have conversations about these in a little bit more depth. And at the November curriculum committee of the board meeting, we had an in-depth review of these report cards. And then also just based on feedback from Mrs. McMorris last year in last year's curriculum committee meeting, this was a great idea. We decided I would create a video annually that would give everybody kind of a general overview of just the working rules of the report cards and that would live on our district web page. So I redid that video this year, put that here in board docs, and that's now on our web page with the other resources. So I'm going to jump in here, but just a note, these report cards are not intended to serve as a gotcha. Rather, they are intended to be one additional piece of information to leverage when celebrating success and identifying areas for continued improvement. I foresee that there will always be an opportunity to look at these report cards with those two lenses. We'll always have things that we want to grow and improve upon because we have a growth mindset as a district. So the purpose of this meeting, I want to just share one brief glow or celebration and then one brief grow or future area of focus from each building. So just an overall, we're excited to see the district once again fall into the exceeds expectations range. Congratulations to Lodi Middle School and Lodi Elementary School for moving from the meets expectations range last year to the exceeds expectations range this year. Our district report card shows overall combined achievement and growth, both in literacy and math, that came in above the state average when you look at that district report card and everything in aggregate. We also see overall attendance and graduation rate scores that are above state average. Our high school, so I'll dive into the high school, once again had our highest report card score, and it should be noted that they once again had a top math growth score in the state. And sometimes that's hard to just single that out, but it's happened for a few years in a row now, and I just think we need to highlight that. That is significant. Top math growth score in the state, right? Now there's some other districts that I went and looked have also had that same score, but that's the top score in the state. We know that current and future achievement results, they're going to be slightly impacted by the pandemic, especially as some old data falls off and is replaced by some new data. And so we're doing some additional support on core areas specific to our board-adopted ACT College Career Readiness Standards. We're also helping our staff better understand the new pre-ACT assessment that will have a significant impact on future report cards that will be occurring starting this year in 9th and 10th grade. So helping our teachers to get their heads wrapped around that assessment. Great thing is, though, the board adopted standards that you have adopted, the ACT College Career Readiness Standards, are in line with those assessments. So we already have a leg up in that. The middle school saw significant growth in the growth area and target group outcomes section of the report cards. A huge thank you to the middle school staff and students for living with some significant schedule changes last year that supported growth in these areas, but it was a heavy lift for both students and staff, and I just want to recognize that. Also, I want to say a big thank you to Derek for his ongoing leadership and vision. He had a huge impact on that growth as well. 8th grade math achievement is noted as an area of growth, continued area of growth at the middle school, and this is our first year with a new math program, 6-8, and we look forward to supporting that area with the investments we've made in middle school math. Okay. The elementary school also saw significant growth in the growth area and target group outcomes section of the report cards. K-5 literacy continues to be an area of focus. This will be the first, this year, right now, the first full year of using the phonics to reading program at the primary school. Okay, last year we put that in place, we didn't do that until later in October. This is the first full year with that in place at the primary school, which will have a future impact. Also, I'm excited about the work occurring at the elementary school in this area as our new principal and his building literacy team have really made it an area of focus. And I just want to give a kudos to Eric. He jumped in and tackled this from day one, working with his literacy team. And we have some things that we're still working through at the elementary school, some decisions that have to be made, but we're on a good track right there to attack this as we move forward. As you know, OSC is a multi-age project-based charter school. This summer, staff had a series of meetings with leadership to reflect on report card information. And as shared in Mr. Shinneman's board report, they have implemented some instructional routines that will further support students during the 22-23 school year and beyond. They put in a lot of work this past summer. And I have been excited about the rigorous standards-based lessons I have been able to observe on a weekly basis during my classroom visits to OSC. If you have additional questions about things that buildings are doing in response to this and other things that we're seeing, you will be able to see some of that come through future board reports from our administrative team, but I also encourage you to reach out to either myself or the building level principals. They're in the buildings every day, and so they'll also be best to speak to some of those things. It's my report card.
Report.
And the one thank you I'd like to give is to Nick.
Yes,
Who's obviously
big time.
helping coordinate that with everybody, right? So one of the conversations we had when I first took over as superintendent is we needed to have a K-12 school district, not 4 different or 5 different class schools doing 5 different things, right? We need to have some coordination, some alignment, and our community said the same thing through our strategic planning process, like, let's be aligned. And so we've really worked hard in having somebody at that, like Nick, there to help align us and be that thought partner for each of those building principles is just really important.
It's paying off.
Did you want to say comments out loud? Ken?
I said it's paying off.
Well, one thing I just want to say too about these school report cards is there's a lot of amazing things that happen in the school district that in no way find themselves into these report cards. I had the opportunity to go and stop in for a brief time at the holiday concert recently. That was amazing. The musical, amazing. We have so many wonderful things happening in the physical education department with some community connections that they've made and some mentorship opportunities that they do. None of that stuff finds its way in here. So you also need to recognize those departments and those amazing things happening.
It's one of the reasons I love to see the photos in the board reports and the text that you guys write, because we don't get to all those schools and we don't get to see what Nick just described. And so you give us a slice of that every month, and we really appreciate that. So, does anyone have any questions for Nick?
Nick, do you have any insights as to why the overall scores vary so between the elementary school and the OSC?
Could you repeat his question so people could hear it?
Yeah, so his question was, we're seeing a variance between OSC and the elementary school. And so what is
the overall score? It's fairly significant.
Yes, absolutely.
So can you comment as to what explains that?
Yeah, I think the OSC staff would probably be better served in talking about that and explaining some of those things. In my short time here, I probably can speak to some of it though, as far as from my observations. Wonderful things happening at OSC as far as the project-based structure and personalized structure that they have created there. What I would say probably from my observations last year is you have a project-based multi-age charter school maybe being impacted by the pandemic in a way that our traditional, let's call it a traditional track, maybe was not, and so a little bit heavier lift during the pandemic. And also with coming out of that pandemic, when I was in their classrooms last year, so much personalization of instruction for students, and in conversations with staff this year, it's how do we continue to provide differentiation and personalization for students, but have time built in their day where they are getting grade level core instruction that's at that level of rigor so that everybody has a chance to experience that. And I think that is probably the heart of it. And I feel like this year, when I've been able to come through and do my observations, that we have time built in the day for that and are able to anchor to that. And if you take a look at the board report there from Mr. Shinneman, I think you can see some of that. Does that make sense?
Take the pandemic part out of it,
Yep.
and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But can you give me that last part one more time?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about instruction, we want to ensure that every student, we're meeting them where they're at, but that at the same time, we are putting materials and resources and instruction in front of them that is at a level of rigor that's continuing to push them forward. Does that make sense? So I'm going to meet you where you're at. Maybe this is a skill you need to work on, and maybe it's above grade level, maybe it's below grade level. I'm going to work with on that. At the same time, I am going to ensure that there is grade level rigor and instruction going on during your day so that you have that level of exposure. And that's something that I think.
Is that something new that's being implemented to help bridge the gap? Is that what you're saying?
I think we're anchoring back to that this year.
Okay, like I said, I don't want to put you on the spot. You've been very good about wanting to meet with me, and I haven't been making our appointments, so I'll make the appointment and we'll continue this conversation.
Absolutely. And maybe Mr. Shinneman would be happy to sit with us too and
Fine.
kind of talk about some of that we're seeing. But I do want to just circle back and say, OSC staff, you know, these are things that we looked at. We saw that discrepancy and met this summer and really had some in-depth conversations about it. And I was impressed with them and their willingness to kind of attack it head on.
So we'll continue along that line.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Nick. COVID mitigation.
The district's medical advisory committee met on December 6th and reviewed our current COVID and illness numbers and current COVID-19 mitigation strategies. The committee is recommending no changes at this time to our current mitigation strategies. However, they did indicate they continue to see a significant rise in respiratory illnesses, and with the priority of keeping kids and staff in school, they shared just general recommendations for students, staff, and families. Those recommendations are get a current flu vaccine or get updated if you haven't had your flu vaccine yet, still not too late. Stay home when you're ill. Practice good hand washing, cough, and sneeze etiquette. Our school nurses have been great about resending that information out, especially at our elementary and primary school levels, making sure that our kids and staff, just a good reminder, those things. And then get the bivalent COVID-19 vaccine. So again, there's no action required of the board as there's no changes being recommended at this point.
Okay, next we have the school safety assessments.
Yeah, so Adam referenced these. Every 3 years, each building in our district needs to conduct a safety assessment for the Office of School Safety and the Department of Justice. I attached the school safety assessments that were conducted on the school buildings this fall for the board. This information is not shared with the public as it could provide people with information they could use to undermine the safety of our buildings. So that's why those aren't public documents. The administrative team met last week to review those assessments, and there is a meeting set with each building principal to meet with me and go over each of these, the results for their individual buildings. I also am meeting with the business manager and director of building and grounds to review that information as well. The information has also been shared with the Lodi Police Department. I shared the assessments with them, and it will be uploaded to the Office of School Safety by January 1st. And then once these documents are uploaded, all the required school district LODI documentation will be uploaded to the Office of School Safety website. You may have saw last year a couple districts were in the news because things weren't uploaded in a timely fashion. We had our things up, and this again, we'll have everything in there we need to. But overall, as you look at those assessments, a lot of the things that we're doing a very good job, right? There's always areas that you can tweak and get better at. But overall, our building principals and our staff and our students do a phenomenal job with some of the safety training that we do. As you think about it, a lot of times when we talk about safety, we just think about the outside of the building. Are the doors locked, are the windows closed, those type of things. But as you saw in these documents, right, it's talking about what's the culture of your building. Are you providing tier 1 social emotional learning for your kids? Are your AEDs accessible in the right spots? All those different things. Are your letters outside your door? Can you see them from 50 yards away? All those different things all play into it. But again, there's some different areas in each of the buildings that could be strengthened. But that's the idea of having somebody like me coming from the outside, walking through them, and spending time putting them together. So I would just ask for approval of these, because then we can upload them. We'll get them signed off, and then they'll get uploaded to the Office of School Safety.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So the Wisconsin School Safety Coordinators Association can come out and do the assessments, but we chose to have it done by you because it wouldn't cost $6,000.
Cost, yeah, it was $1,500 a building. They would come out and do it. So I sat through a half-day training with them, virtual training. I could have done a whole day training, but I had to go somewhere. So I had a half-day training with them. They shared this document that they've used.
So that document was the template?
That was the template that we used, yeah.
That
So
they would
it's,
have used if they had come out also? Okay.
yes, yeah. And so it's about, as you saw, after you get filled out, it's about a 30-page document.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense why they were charging
Yeah,
$1,500 a
and
building.
have we had them do it in the past, or is this the first?
We had, I don't know if they did it or, as a building principal, we had somebody come through and help. I think our director of building grounds may have done it when Mr. Aker was here. I remember sitting and having conversations with him and some other gentlemen about this. So we did an assessment. I don't know where those are, but Mo, would you know when those were done again last time?
They were done just before Mr. Aker was hired, because they were a separate consulting firm that came in and did them, him and his friend.
That's maybe how we met Mr. Aker.
I don't remember seeing this level of detail, though,
Yeah,
in the
but,
past.
yeah. And I don't know if they came to the board or not. We just felt that with everything going on with safety, it's not required that we bring them to the board, but with everything going on in safety and concerns the last few years, especially, just wanted the community to know and the board to know that we took the time to make sure these were done right and that we're following up on all the different aspects of school safety.
Yeah, it was very nice to read that this is how we can address this is how we can address this is how we can make this better, and all that was in there too.
Yep.
I just kind of wonder if this is done, it needs to be done every 3 years, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
If we may want to consider alternating with an outside company,
Mm-hmm.
maybe every 6
Okay.
years, not that, it's just sometimes when you live within if you are within the school, you may not see something that is, the person coming from the outside might see. I mean, I think it's great, I think this is awesome, I think this has been really well done, but I wonder if the next time it comes around, if we should consider having an outside group do, and then maybe alternate.
Like alternative.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%, Angie, that, like, I come in with a little bit of bias, right? It was, especially at the high school level,
Yeah.
it was really hard for me to like put that away, like my prior knowledge of the high school, because I know that building pretty well. And I know them all pretty well, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
try to put that prior knowledge away and try to see it through clear eyes, and hopefully I did a decent job, but it was not perfect. I would agree, somebody coming in from the outside who does this through different buildings, right, they've seen how it's done in different buildings, so they may have other ideas of how it could be done, because I've been in this district 15 years, so I know how this district does things. I think it would be a good idea to have somebody come back in.
Yeah, I think maybe next time it comes up, we should put that on, make a sticky note.
But I also think it's good that you did it from the inside. Just the exact opposite argument, right? Is that because you do know all this stuff, you were able to pin things together that someone on the outside would not have
Yeah,
done.
it's like the best of both worlds when you have
Right.
internal and external. Good, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the safety assessments for Lodi Primary School, Lodi Elementary School, and OSC, Lodi Middle School, and Lodi High School.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Heather and a second by Terry. I have couple more questions. So for the principals, say something, see something app that students or anyone can report stuff that's happening. Do we ever get things through that app? Do things ever come to you? And so that's a yes? Yeah? And then we're gonna switch to that new one, Office Speak Out app from the Office of School Safety.
Speak out.
Yeah. That one is better or free or
Yeah, I can speak,
cheaper?
they're both free. So
Okay.
the reason we would look to the Speak Up, Speak Out app, and we were gonna transition, is I sat through a couple presentations by the Office of School Safety. And one of the things that our app, right, people put things in and it goes to our principals and people hear. Speak Up, Speak Out will go to other analysts at the Office of School Safety. So that is monitored 24/7. I know my building principals work hard, but it's hopefully not 24/7. So they are 24/7, there's something. So if there is somebody who's contemplating hurting themselves or doing something like that at, odd hour of the night, it immediately is caught by the Office of School Safety. They will flag us and let us know, right? The other thing is if there's like multiple threats that are similar across the state. Like, for example, earlier this fall, there was some social media posts going out in some area schools that somebody was gonna come and use a gun. Well, because it went to Speak Up, we didn't get one of those, thank goodness. But other area schools, because they were in the Speak Up, Speak Out app, they were able to know that that was like a bunch of different schools across the state and everybody, and it was all the same image. And they could tell you exactly where that image came from and they could start tracking down the URL and all the stuff that we don't have the capability of doing here.
Right.
And then the police will also be notified and things like that as well. So it's all,
But it still goes to the principals?
it's still, well, yep, it goes to the principals, and the bigger safety issues will also come to Adria and Nick, myself. So, yes. So everybody in each of the buildings got to, when we set it up, like, who gets notified? So we put that together. So we will probably roll that out at semester time. We just need to find a natural, it's not really something we want to roll out, like, happy holidays, here you go. It's something we'll probably do at semester time, and that's what we talked about. We need to get the information put together and out to families and make sure it's up on the Chromebooks and things of that nature. Because right now, our See Anything, Say Anything app is on their Chromebook.
Good.
And it's on our website, so it's very accessible. That's why we're making that transition.
Then I had one more question. It noted, and again, you don't have to dig through there, but it said student security protocol, and it said no on all of those. Do we have a student security protocol? And to me, it was like, do we have a student group, or do we have something specific that students do, or did it just not apply?
Yeah, I don't think it applied. I have to go back and look at that specific question.
It was hard, because there's no way I could dig to give you the exact context, so I can talk to you about it.
Because, yeah, we can look at exactly where that is, because our students, again, are practice,
trained, yeah.
they practice this, and again, I give the building principals credit, because they train them at the different levels, right? What you do with a high school kid is a lot different than what you do with a second grader or a first grader, and we do it in a way that, it's not to cause more anxiety, more stress. And I think the letter that comes out from the elementary and primary school both says, like, in schools, we practice everything, I think is the first line, right? And that's what we do. We practice how you go wash your hands. We practice how you stand in line. We practice fire drills. We practice all these things. But we do it in a way that's hopefully safe and reassuring the kids as well, but also make sure that we are prepared in case something like that ever happens. And we hope we never do. The other piece that plays a role in this, I've been meeting with our local first responders on a monthly basis, just kind of reviewing a lot of these different pieces of information as well.
Okay, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Guiding principle discussion.
Yeah, so the Board of Education participated in 3 sessions, Board Professional Development. The first 2 sessions developed on focusing collective commitments, which the board members all have right here in front of them, right, at each board meeting. And on the clarifying responsibilities between the board and the district administrator. The board had the opportunity to review and approve both those documents generated by those discussions and subsequent meetings with Mr. Harwick. In the final session, the board worked on developing guiding principle document, which can be referenced when making complex decision. A group of board members, I believe Terry and Heather, took this information that was generated from the meeting and developed the attached documents and board docs. One of the documents was a general guideline of guiding principles for future decisions. The other one was more specific guiding principles around, we used the example of green space decisions that the board might need to make in the near future. So the board has not really had the opportunity to review this information together as a group since it's put together. So the goal tonight is just to determine if these documents accurately reflect that conversation, or we need to provide feedback to those who crafted them on behalf of the board, recommend any adjustments, and then, or if we feel like they represent that, approve those documents.
I think Scott and Christie, you also had input on these too, right?
Very little. They did all the heavy lifting, so thank you.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Give them credit. They did it.
I think they're really nice because I love how simplified they are, right? And you can just go, they're so logical, right? That here's the topic, boom, 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 that makes perfect sense. So, I love them.
I like the way they turned out.
Well, it's daunting to take to have a group of 7 people have to kind of, talk about a particular issue, but, and then you guys condensed it down into what the the important parts are, and that was, I'm sure that took a long time.
Terry organized it for me, and then I
Made it look very pretty.
well, I tried, yes. It was actually easier to almost, that's why I did it, just a template first, and then I went back to our example, because it was almost easier to just like spell it out first, and then, because I almost got too detailed in the first one, so then I'm like, okay, wait a minute.
And it was great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I make a motion to move to approve the guiding principles documents as presented.
I second that.
Motion by Angie and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. State convention participation.
Yeah, thanks to all the board members who have given their information to Maureen regarding the upcoming state convention on January 18th to the 20th. If you have your convention form turned in, if you have your convention form in front of you, that means you have not turned one in. You need to let Mo know before December 15th.
Today, please, so I can get everybody registered tomorrow, so we can get the early
Yes.
bird.
Otherwise, we have to pay more to register people. So just let us know. One way or the other, we totally understand if you can or can't make it, right? Other things come up in life, but, so just let Maureen know.
Next, we have candidacy and non-candidacy paperwork information.
Yeah, so there are 2 seats up for a school board election in April. Adam Steinberg and Barb Fire. Incumbents not running need to have their notice of non-candidacy filed no later than December 23rd at 5 p.m. All other candidates must have candidacy paperwork filed by no later than Tuesday, January 3rd at 5 p.m. And all the forms for filing this can be found on the district website. Just an FYI, again, I shared this in my board report, so potential candidates can plan ahead. The district office will be closed December 24th through January 2nd, so you need to turn your things in before that or that day, January 3rd, when we come back to school.
Okay, educational options, approval of notice to parents and guardians.
Yeah, each school year, the district's required by January 31st to provide parents, guardians with notice of buildings and district report card data, along with a summary of educational options available within the school district. Attached is a draft of the January 2023 letter to parents and guardians. It's provided for the board to review and approve prior to copying and mailing and posting on the district webpage to meet the mandated requirement.
Make a motion to approve the annual notification notice for parents on school options as required under 2015 Act 55.
I'll second it.
Motion by Angie and a second by Heather. Any further discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have board self-evaluation.
So according to policy 153, each board member shall fill out the attached evaluation form and for a board self-evaluation and return the completed form to Maureen Palmer no later than December 23rd. As you look at in board docs, the form is there for everybody to see, but board members, if you look down in the executive content, there is a Google form that you can fill out. So if you can get that to Maureen by the end of next week, that way she can collate that information and bring it back to you for your January board meeting.
Okay, next we have policy first reading.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them.
There's a few, right? So the policy committee met on November 16th, 2022, to start their work on transition to Neola policy services. The committee reviewed the first set of policy bylaws and unanimously moved them to the full board with a recommendation of approval. So they went through all of these different policies. So Tyler, can I have you open up policy 151? There you go. So when we look at a policy through Neola, it just shows up. Like, all this is in black and white. But if there's these little areas where we get to make decisions as a school district. So we went through, Maureen and I walked through this whole section. And so, for example, this was a pretty straightforward one. Annual board reorganizational meeting. The board shall hold an annual reorganization meeting on or within 30 days of the fourth Monday in April. That meeting should be called by the ranking officer of the proceeding board, because that's what we do in Lodi. Other places, you can say the district administrator is going to run that meeting. Well, we've never done it that way. Or the clerk's going to run that meeting. Well, we haven't done it that way. So if you notice those, they're black or they're crossed out, that's what we took off. If there's just a mark here before something, that means that's the one we're choosing. So the ranking officer of the proceeding board. So that's a very simple one to look at. Or the other one, maybe another good example, was policy 144.5. We talk about cell phones in that one. So right here.
Right here?
Yeah. You go like halfway down the page. Keep going, right there. So one of the things that Neola, when they came with the policy, they talked about cell phones. Like, so their part is board members' use of electronic communication devices prohibited at board meetings. Right, so this is one of the areas that I brought this back to the committee. I didn't make a recommendation, but we want to have a conversation with the policy committee. It's like, do we want to say those are prohibited? Because that's not something we do now. And as we talked about it, right, it's encouraged that you don't use them, because if you start doing something in an open board meeting on your cell phone, it now becomes an open record with your cell phone. And secondly, you're not focused on what's going on. At least that's what it looks like. We all think we can multitask. But it was also brought up very clear, like, you know, what if I have a kid at home, like I do right now? My daughter's home by herself. I shouldn't say that on the.
You blink at her.
So, because my wife's at work, I'm at work. I know. But so you have a phone, right? So that sometimes we have a phone that's, you know, that for those things. So the committee said, instead of, you know, yep, we want to include board members' use of electronic communication devices, but we said we're going to add the word discouraged and cross out prohibited. So that was a decision we got to make here at this level. So if you see something in green, it's something that we've added. So we went through, and as you go through them, some of them have a lot crossed off. Others are not even touched at all. So, as I said, Maureen and I went through that with our consultant, Scott Brown, who works for Neola. We had some where we had questions that we would ask other people. There's a few that the committee, I think there was 3 of them that they tweaked in some way and brought forward to this group. So again, it's a first read of these policies. If there's any questions about any of them, there's no motion that needs to be made.
Can I just add that,
Yeah.
because this is a first read and we're not doing anything to, we're not gonna accept them for a while.
Right.
If the board has changes, you should either make note of it for the second read, right? Or even better yet, come to a policy meeting and listen to our discussion on it.
So like, that is the best, what is the best way? I mean, obviously nothing in here is
Right, but these are
crazy,
pretty
but
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, but it's gonna
However-
be coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
So what is the best, is it during the first read, or we talk?
Yeah.
Is it, we go to the policy meeting, or like?
I would say the best is to, if during a first read, if you see something, you let us know, and we want to kick this one back to the policy committee, or let's have a conversation about this. And then we will bring it back to the policy committee and then bring it back for another first read. Because what's gonna happen with these policies, right, we're gonna be done with these, we're gonna set these aside, and not have a second read until all the policies are done.
So we'll have
'Cause
a massive second.
We'll have a
read.
massive, it will be
So-
every policy for a second read.
So ideally, what we want is the second read to be clean.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
like, your opportunity is at the first read.
Flip it out, so yeah.
And one of the things I foresee happening is like the first couple times that we will show all these edits, and then after that, we will just bring them. Like, this is what the policies are, for you to read them, because they get kind of confusing. When you start, like, these are pretty straightforward, but like when we were doing the 9,000 level the other day, like trying to read through them with all the crossed out things
All the-
makes it,
All the options that come from
yeah,
Neola,
it
is
makes
that
it
what-
really hard to like, wait a minute, what?
Well, but it's kind of interesting to see what Neola's
Yeah.
recommendations are, because we sometimes have policies that, I don't know, that you don't necessarily know that there's another option or another way of presenting it. I don't know.
Yeah, but so those are the two options, right? You can come to policy, everybody can come to policy committee. Or as you read these and you have a concern, you bring them up here, and either we can take them back to policy, or we can have a conversation here with the full board and decide, yep, we're gonna make a change and then move forward, or we're gonna recommend this and it goes back to the policy committee.
So like, I mean, obviously if something needs a full board discussion, it's, obviously it would come up here, but what if I said, I think this sentence is weird, why, you know, or like something, would that be more of a?
So if it's more of like, one of the policies that we'll look at too is that we can make changes to policy, like a grammar change. Like if there's a sentence that just doesn't read right, but it doesn't change then we can
Right.
just make that change. So that's one of the things we'll look at, because that was one of the issues like with our old policy, like all of a sudden you look back and there's a typo in it. I'd have to bring it back to the full board to get it fixed, right? Instead of just like fix the typo.
Should we correct the, yeah.
So, yeah, and again, if you wanna look at them, like, we've already put a whole bunch more for the policy committee's not meeting till, well, it's meeting in January. There is a whole slew of policies in there for them to read, to go through.
I just wanna take up like full board time on like, policy.
Yeah, so if you read through it and there's something, or if you read through it and you have a question, reach out to either myself or, Chrissy's the chair of the policy committee. And you can have that conversation with us, like maybe the board, the policy committee already talked through it, and this is why they made that decision, and then you can still, if you decide at that point, yep, I still wanna talk about it here at this level, absolutely. We wanna make sure that we do this right.
How many policies are there?
A whole lot.
There's a lot. This is half of the bylaws.
For the board.
For the board.
For the
So
board.
these are zeros, they go through 9,000s. So we'll go, let me just do them in different order, because they become more difficult. These are probably the easiest ones to do.
Right.
9,000s are probably the next easiest ones. We'll probably do the Brent and Scott will do the financial ones. And then we'll start working on other ones as well. So it'll take us
So we're gonna do 80 when we're done. I'm just kidding.
a lot more than 80. There's almost 80 in
Well, we appreciate the policy
bylaws.
committee's work on this, and it is not going unnoticed.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reading, and some of it's really, like the school district of, the district will be known as the school district of Lodi. That's a policy, right? Just in, those type of things. There's some of them pretty easy, like, we're a common high school, and so just you have to cross some things out.
Well, I think it's great
Which-
for the board to be also, the whole board reading all these policies, because like how often do you just pick up the policy manual and just, read, but that's what we're gonna be doing over the next.
Well, one of the things I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No. One of the things I find myself doing is like looking at other places that have board doc policies. Like, why not has board doc policies? Cambridge just went through this process, so what decisions did they make? And why? So like, I kind of glance at them once in a while too, and just like, look at what decisions they've made. And if there's anything that I have a question about, I can always reach out to their building, their districts as well, if things kind of made sense, or, but yeah, it's a lot of reading and policy. Keep you up.
That's great. Thank you.
So like I said, if there's any questions about any of these, there's no action required on any of them. But we will, if there's no questions or concerns about these, we will set these aside. They will clean them up. Neola will clean them up for us. And then they'll be ready to go whenever we do. Because the reason we're doing, I don't think I shared that, the reason that we will have first reads and then set them aside is so we're not working through two different policy manuals. So we'll set them aside, and then when they're all done, we'll adopt them as one, and that will replace our policy book. The whole all at once. So we still will operate even with these under our current policies until these are all adopted. Otherwise it'd be really confusing because they reference different things.
Okay, we do have 1 second reading for policy though. Policy 443.3, tobacco-free school revision.
Yeah, and so we do still look at some of our own policies, right? We still wanted to keep our policies up to date. And some of these will also be incorporated into Neola policies. We keep some of our policies. If we decide, nope, so for example, I'll use the example of public input. We just looked at, that was one of the policies. We kept it, we spent a lot of time on public input policy last year, we kept it. And so we didn't make any changes. But we're already working on tobacco-free schools to make sure that this was aligned to what is happening in the buildings. So the policy committee reviewed this policy in October. They brought it forward to the full board. It was first read last board meeting. So I recommend approval.
There's a typo at the end in the note. It says if at any step in this process, it should say and electronic cigarette, right? Not and electronic cigarette. At the very,
Yes.
very end.
Yeah.
And should it say if found or is found? I think either works, but if you continue on electronic cigarette and or related device if found to contain THC or is found.
We can change either one would work. If or is.
Not that it makes any changes, but I'm just curious, what was the reasoning behind changing this stuff? I mean, I know the obviously up here, the definitions, because things, new things have come up and whatever, but
Why do we add that step?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So we had a long conversation about that, because one of the things that can be seen is like, well, we are becoming more tolerant of vaping or things of that nature. Can you see that? The discussion we had was looking at trying to set our students up for success and set our board up for success, right? Because if we brought our students previously, we were looking at an expulsion hearing, right? If I'm not mistaken, we had pre-expulsion at 3, which meant expulsion at 4. And as we talked about it, was the board, would it set the board up for success if they're gonna expel somebody for the 4th time they were vaping, if there was nothing else involved? So we talked about, well, let's add another step, like have a 4th offense and then some other things that were put in place for that. So that's why we added this step. The other piece where we made some little changes in there was just to align the buildings between the middle school and high school as well, to make sure that they were aligned. Because this is one of the only places where we have consequences in policy. Typically it's not, so it's usually held on by the handbooks of each building. So we wanted to make sure that those were aligned between the buildings.
Okay.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, yep. So I will plan on making the change of the and to and is.
I will move to approve the revisions to Board of Education Policy 443.3 tobacco-free schools with the correction of the typos.
I'll second that.
Motion by Christine, a second by Angie. Any further discussion? In favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have gifts and donations.
Yeah, the district received a $2,000 grant in place award through the Rural School Collaborative for School Forest, a donation from Suzanne Welch of $500 to the crew program and pool programming, and a donation of $500 from the Lake Melvin Yacht Club to the food service program to provide meals for children of financially struggling students. So the district recommends that we accept the grant and the donations with great gratitude.
Make a motion to accept the $2,000 Celia B. Godsell Grants in Place Award, the donation from Suzanne Welch of $500 to the crew program, and the donation of $500 from the Lake Melvin Yacht Club to the food service program with great gratitude.
A second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Heather.
Yes.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes
I just
7.
have a question, that grant, so does Paula, she had to obviously put a little bit more work in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was pretty awesome. I mean, I read it through and it sounds really neat.
Yeah, so we had a group
So
come
thank
to
you
the
for doing that.
Facility and Finance Committee meeting, our last one, and asked the committee for permission to do some more work out at the school forest and come up with some planning for the school forest. So Paul is a part of that, Leo Olson, science teacher at the high school, Connor Anderson, our ag teacher, there's a few others who are involved in kind of putting together a forestry plan for out there to try to make it more accessible, more user-friendly, that we can use it. So this is just one of those steps, but they're working on a more comprehensive plan for that. They're gonna bring back to the Facility and Finance Committee, and then at some point to the full board.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have committee reports. CISA 5 rep.
We did not meet this month. We don't meet in December.
Co-curricular items report.
I've requested somebody else
Okay.
to read that for me tonight.
It's over there. Do you want somebody
You
without a
got
mask?
Somebody without a mask?
Okay. Co-curricular report for December of 2022, Lodi High School. Wrestling. The Lodi wrestling team traveled to the Bob Downing Scramble in Sun Prairie this past weekend, taking home second place overall. Top individual performers included Levi Ness, second for 106. Guessing that's the weight? No, that's the score.
No,
That's the weight.
That's the way.
That's the weight, thank you. Zane Licht, first for 152, and Isaiah Groskopf, first for 220. They will travel to Fond du Lac tournament this weekend before hosting their first home duel of the season against Belleville on Thursday, December 22nd at 7 p.m. Boys basketball. The boys basketball team is off to a 2-1 start. Their season opener was a thrilling 61-58 win over Reedsburg, with Jaden Gallagher sinking a buzzer-beating three-pointer to seal the victory. Wow. This past Friday, Lodi topped Marshall 53-44 at home. There are 2 chances to catch the boys team at home this week. Tomorrow night they take on Wisconsin Dells, and they host Monroe on Thursday night. Girls basketball. Girls basketball team is off to a 1-6 start, winning their opening game against River Valley 74-32 at home. This past Friday they traveled up to take on the top-ranked Westfield, falling 72-26. The girls team has 3 more home games before winter break, taking on Cambridge at home tonight, traveling to Adams Friendship tomorrow, and hosting Poynette on Friday. Boys hockey. The Norski Co-op hockey team is 2-3 with a conference record of 1-2. This past Friday they defeated conference opponent Milton 2-4 at home at the Pond in Wanakee. They take on Wanakee this evening before heading on to Onalaska to take on the Kiwanis on Tuesday night. Girls hockey. The Iceberg Co-op hockey team is 0-4 with a conference record of 0-1. They host Middleton tomorrow night at the Mant Hockey Arena in Stoughton. This year, 2 Lodi students are part of the co-op team. Mock trial team season started up last week when they traveled to their first scrimmage of the year in Wanakee. Tonight they will travel to Beaver Dam for a scrimmage, and on Saturday they will attend Brookfield Central scrimmage. Tournaments will begin once we are back from break in January. The esports team finished the fall season playing Super Smash Brothers with an overall record of 2-6. The winter season of either Rocket League or Fortnite will kick off in January. Next we have OSC report.
The OSD students went on field studies to the McKenzie Center and to the Ice Age Trail and completed their mini project on Wisconsin wildlife. They're joining a partnership called Think Outside that will help fund future field studies on the Ice Age Trail by covering transportation costs. And they finished up and sent in their helping hand letters to the Wisconsin State Journal.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. OSD does have Amazon Smile, so if you're doing any of your Christmas shopping, feel free to go through Amazon Smile, and then OSD gets a portion of that.
Personnel Committee has no report because they didn't meet, correct? Curriculum.
Okay, well, we had a great I loved our last curriculum meeting because Michelle Pauls came and Sarah Weber came and definitely talked about mental health and what they're doing already, because we saw in our state surveys that that is definitely an issue for our students, and the anxiety, and especially, middle and high school, but all ages. They're already working on all that, and they have been forever. I mean, this isn't something new with them, but just some of the stuff that they're doing is great. And Hannah is, she's new and she's got such energy. I love to listen to her. But the other thing that I hadn't thought of that Michelle brought up is that the high school turf, the football field, has been such a game changer for the Phi Ed classes because they can be out there. They were out there through November. I love it that the kids can be outside. I mean, they love it. They come back in better. They're in a better place. So just some needs about weight room equipment that would be coming up eventually, and that's kind of it. Nick already did the report card discussion here, but we had heard from him. So.
Okay, Facility Finance did not meet, but we meet on Wednesday, and then policy.
We went over.
I think we did.
Yeah.
It literally went over.
You might want to just comment briefly on what we're meeting on Wednesday so that people that aren't on that committee can decide if they want to try to make time to show up.
I don't have it in front of me. I can get it.
Yeah, we're.
Basically, it's green space.
Yeah, so they're gonna be meeting on green space, right? So as prior to the referendum planning last year, the board approved us doing a green space, first of all, a study of all of our areas, and then a green space plan. With the referendum, we pressed pause on that after the survey went out, but we still need to finish that plan. So at the Facility and Finance Committee, Point of Beginning is gonna come and share some of their thoughts on a green space plan, some initial thoughts, and get some feedback from the Facility and Finance Committee. So that is Wednesday at
6
p.m. Is it 6?
6 p.m. here.
So Scott, I think what you're saying is if you want to hear them give that report, come to that committee meeting, right?
Right.
Because that's where they're going to give it. They're not going to give it at the board meeting here. So.
They may at some point, but this is the first step.
Okay.
But first step's to the Facility and Finance.
Okay. Future meeting agenda, or future meetings are on there. Do you want to go back into close and cover a couple of things that we didn't cover? Okay, all right, so we will reconvene in closed session as soon as someone reads. You can do it. Motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes sections 19.85 1C, E, and F. To consider employment and compensation and performance evaluation data and financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations, to discuss certain cases of specific complaints against board. And then things are listed below.
A second.
So I made a motion and seconded by Christie. Any further discussion? Roll call. Heather?
Yes.
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 Yes. 7-0. We are now back in closed session. Thank you, everyone.